Welcome to the very first episode of a new YouTube channel called Beyond the A-League. I'm your host, Aaron Beggs. This will be on the Breakdown podcast with Aaron Beggs' YouTube channel, as well as a channel called Beyond the A-League. This channel is a dedicated channel for all things National Premier Leagues from around the country, or NPL if you're with your football terminology. With all the NPL competitions starting on different weekends over the coming weeks, we will have numerous episodes leading into week one of all NPL comps. So this week being the first week of the channel, I'm going to go through all of the NPL competition teams and who are the favourites to win the minor premierships. I'll also have my own predictions, but that means absolutely nothing. So let's start with the competitions that actually start on the 6th and 7th of February, and that's the NPL New South Wales and NPL Victoria comps. Starting with NPL New South Wales, let's have a look at the teams that are involved in the competition this year. They are RPA Leichhardt, Blacktown City FC, Central Coast Mariners, Marconi Stallions, Manly United, Mount Druitt Town Rangers, NWS Spirit, Rochdale Illington, St George FC, St George City, Sutherland Sharks, Sydney FC, Sydney Olympic, Sydney United 58, Western Sydney Wanderers, and lastly the Wollongong Wolves. Last year's premiers were Rochdale Illington, and the grand final champions were Marconi Stallions. The newly promoted team is from Mount Druitt Town Rangers. The favourite to win the comp is obviously the premiers from last year, Rochdale Illington. My favourite, which again means nothing at all, Wollongong Wolves and Marconi Stallions there. Now on to NPL Vic competition that starts on the 6th of February. Let's have a look at the teams involved this year. We have Altona Magic FC, Avondale FC, Dandenong City FC, Dandenong Thunder FC, Green Gully Soccer Club, Heidelberg United, Hume City, Melbourne Knights, Melbourne Victory, Oakley Cannons, the Port Melbourne Sharks, the Preston Lions, South Melbourne, and St Albans Saints. In that competition last year, we had the premiers were South Melbourne and the champions were Oakley Cannons. The newly promoted teams are Melbourne Victory Youth and the Preston Lions FC. The favourite to win the comp, obviously, it's South Melbourne. My favourite are Oakley Cannons and Hume City. Again, means nothing. My picks mean nothing, especially before the season even starts. If we move on to the next competition that starts on the 13th of February, the week later, it is the Northern New South Wales NPL competition. The teams that are going to take part in that competition are Adamstown Rosebuds, the second oldest club in the country, Belmont Swansea United, Broadmeadow Magic, Charlestown Azzurri, Cooks Hill, Edgeworth Eagles, Lambton Jaffers, the Maitland FC, New Lambton FC, Newcastle Olympic, Valentine FC, and the Western Bears FC. Last year in this competition, the premiers and the champions were both Broadmeadow Magic, and the newly promoted team is the Belmont Swansea United. As you can tell, the favourites, obviously the team that got the double last year, Broadmeadow Magic FC. My favourite, again, Broadmeadow Magic. You can't not pick them. And the Edgeworth Eagles. Moving on to NPL Queensland, which starts on the 21st of February. And that's the teams that are competing in this competition this year are Brisbane City, Brisbane Roar, Eastern Suburbs, Gold Coast Knights, Gold Coast United, Lions FC, Moreton City Excelsior, Olympic FC, Peninsula Power, St George Willawong, South Coast Wanderers and Wynnum Wolves. Last year's premiers were the Gold Coast Knights and the champions were Lions FC. Newly promoted teams are St George Willawong and Eastern Suburbs. The favourite going out there, I'm going to say the favourite so far is Lions FC, and my favourites are Gold Coast Knights and the Peninsula Power. Moving on to the next NPL competition, which starts on Friday the 21st of February, is NPL South Australia. The teams competing for the NPL title in South Australia this year are Adelaide Comets, Adelaide Croatia Rangers, Adelaide City, Adelaide United, Campbelltown City, Croydon FC, FK Beograd, Modbury Jets, the Metro Stars, Playford City, Para Hills Knights and WT Bacala. Last year's premiers in South Australia were the Metro Stars and the champions were Campbelltown City. Newly promoted teams are WT Bacala and Playford City. The favourites have to be the Metro Stars there. My favourite is Adelaide City and Campbelltown City respectively. As we move on to the last three of the NPL competitions from around the country, let's have a look at the next one, and that is one from my own state, and that is NPLW, WA, which starts on Friday the 14th of March. The teams that are competing for NPL WA in 2025 are Armidale SC, Balcatta Etna FC, Bayswater City, Fremantle City, Floreat Athena, Olympic Kingsway, Perth Glory Youth, Perth Red Star, Perth Soccer Club, Sorrento FC, Stirling Macedonia and Western Knights. Last year's premiers and champions were Olympic Kingsway, and they also went pretty far in the Australia Cup. Newly promoted team is Sorrento FC, which won the State League First Division over here. Favourites are Olympic Kingsway. My favourites are Stirling Macedonia and Perth Soccer Club. Moving on to the second last competition we're going to cover in this week's episode, and that's NPL Capital competition. The teams that are competing in the NPL Capital competition for 2025 are Canberra Croatia, Gungahlin United, Monaro Panthers, O'Connor Knights, Queanbeyan City, Tigers FC, Tuggeranong United, Ugali Soccer Club. Last year's premiers were Gungahlin United. The champions were Canberra Croatia. Newly promoted team is Queanbeyan City. The favourites Canberra Croatia, and my favourites are the premiers from last year, Gungahlin United and Canberra Croatia. Not much to choose from between 8 teams. Moving on to the final NPL competition that we're covering, and that is NPL Tasmania, which starts on the 14th of March. Clarence Zebras, Devonport City Strikers, Glenorchy Knights FC, Kingborough Lions United, Launceston City, Launceston United, Riverside Olympic and South Hobart are competing in the NPL Tasmania competition this year. Last year's champions were the Glenorchy Knights. My favourites this year are the Glenorchy Knights, and I don't mind South Hobart either. That's it for the preview of the NPL competitions from around the country. But before I go, I'm just going to do a quick wrap of the first week of the NPL WA Night Series, which kicked off last Friday night over here in the West. In round one, we had Olympic Kingsway beat Fremantle City 2-0. Perth Soccer Club beat Perth Red Star 2-0. Perth Glory Youth got beat 2-1 by Bayswater City. Armidale smacked Balcatta 4-1. Sorrento and Floreat Athena managed a 3-3 draw, and Western Knights got beat by Stirling Macedonia 3-1. This week's games in round 2 sees Fremantle City versus Armidale, Western Knights versus Floreat Athena, Bayswater City versus Olympic Kingsway, Perth SC versus Stirling Macedonia, Sorrento versus Perth Red Star, and Balcatta Etna versus Perth Glory. And that's a wrap from this very first episode of Beyond the A-League. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to the season ahead, bringing you all of the up-to-date details from NPL competitions from around the country. I'll be back next week with a preview of round 1 action in the NPL New South Wales and NPL Victoria comps. Also, I'll have a look at round 2 results of the NPL WA Night Series. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Anyway, I hope you have a good week, and as always, be kind to each other. This has been the very first episode of Beyond the A-League with Aaron Beggs, your host, and I will see you next week.